What's going on, everybody? It's great to have you with me. The Minnesota Vikings are 2-0, and very few people thought that they would be. Oh, sure, it was easy to get a week one victory over the lowly New York football Giants. But the Vikings beat the 49ers, the reigning NFC champions. And not only did they beat them, they dominated them. Don't let that final score of 23-17 fool you. We shot ourselves in the foot a bunch of times. Otherwise, we would have put up 35, maybe 40 points against those guys. But going into this season, if you had told me that through 2 weeks, the Vikings would be one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL, I would have said, oh boy, that's a stretch. But they are. They're absolutely a top 5 defense. I said going into the season, top 10 would be about what you should shoot for and what we should reasonably hope for. This defense is insane. They are physical. They are fast. And most importantly, they are balanced. Defenses in the past, we've had 2 or 3 superstars, a couple of good players, and then a couple of pieces that we had to hide. We don't have anybody to hide right now. There's no guess on this Vikings defense because Coach Florez probably wouldn't tolerate any guess on this defense. We'll talk about the defense a lot tonight. Talk a little bit about Sam Bradford, who had a ridiculous drive. Yes, it was just a field goal drive, but it was a drive to ice the game, a drive to lead you to victory, and a drive where he had a starting offensive lineman and then second and third stringers at tight end, running back, and wide receiver, and he still got it done. But for a false start penalty, we might have put it in the end zone. But at the end of the day, we just needed a field goal. Lined up for a 27-yard. I'm like, oh, 27 yards. Where have I seen that before? Thank you, Blair Walsh. Big Leg Bill kicked us to victory, and that was it. And circling back to the defense, Brian Florez, it was one thing to put the league on notice by beating up Daniel Jones. It's another thing to beat up the 49ers. And ultimately, the Vikings did what no other team in the NFC apparently is able to do. Brock Purdy is 14-0 against NFC opponents through his career, except for the Vikings, for which he is 0-2. I don't know if that's KOC knows the scheme well enough because he's part of that tree or Brian Flores has something figured out, but kudos to Brian Flores for making some adjustments at halftime because in the first half, the San Francisco running game, they were eating us up. 78 yards in the first half by their running back. Only 22 in the second half. That's adjustments. Let's get some shout outs. We got a couple people in the house already. What's going on, Mary? Good to see you. Thank you so kindly, as always, for joining. Appreciate you so very, very much. I'm just almost at a loss for words because it's not that I didn't believe in this team or believe that they could win. I predicted the final score would be 27-24 and figured it would be a very back and forth close game. But it really wasn't. It really wasn't a back and forth game. The Vikings had opportunities to blow the doors off of them. Unfortunately, didn't take advantage of some of the opportunities that were afforded to them early, but San Francisco was never really in that game. They pressured Brock Purdy, got to him 6 times. The Vikings lead the NFL in sacks. I know, it's only 2 weeks. Okay, so let's not get too ridiculous about it, but 10 sacks through 2 games? I'll take that. 10. You've got to be kidding me. But hey, we'll take it. And we've got a date with the Houston Texans, and boy, oh boy, that's going to be an interesting game. Houston dispatched the Bears last night. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the NFC North Roundup towards the end, but yeah, they're a good team. But so are we. Say it loud and say it proud, ladies and gentlemen. We are a good team. And it doesn't matter that it's Sam Darnold that's leading us and not Kirk Cousins or not Patrick Mahomes. We are a good team. And for the last 6 years, we've been saying, okay, they're a good team, but are they a great team? I'm not ready to say the Vikings are a great team yet. It's only 2 games. But I am ready to say that they're a great defense as long as they stay healthy. And what's really special about this defense is they have a lot of depth. Patrick Jones. I think I almost didn't make the roster according to some. There were talk that Patrick Jones was going to be one of the first guys not to make the team. He's got 4 sacks. Now, again, some of it is cleanup, but some of it is there was a play against Trent Williams, widely regarded as the best left tackle in the NFL, and he had him spinning around. That was early on. I believe it was in the first quarter. It was either their first or second drive where I believe it was 3rd and 13, and Brock Purdy short hopped the receiver. It's because Patrick Jones got to him. But there's just so many names defensively that it's almost just like reading down the depth chart. And that's what makes this defense so far potentially very, very special. It's not a handful of superstars making plays here or there. It's everybody. It's absolutely everybody. But let me get some shout outs and then we'll get started here. Have some fun here tonight. I want to mock Bob is in the house. What's going on, Bob? Good to see you. He still sees 17-0. Okay. T-Bass, what's going on? I've totally changed my mind about this season with how well the defense is playing and how Sam Darnold is playing. The Super Bowl window is open now. I really hope we don't let Sam walk. Boy, oh boy. Wouldn't that be something, T-Bass? Wouldn't that be something that Sam Darnold was brought in here just to be a one-year stopgap until J.J. McCarthy was ready? I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole of, well, what if Sam Darnold, it looks like this and how far we go and this, that, and whatever else. Who cares? Let's just enjoy the season. But for right now, yeah, if this defense continues to play the way it is, the Super Bowl window might entirely be open. You might be right. 149er said, we held Jefferson. Other than that run, he didn't do much. It was all about how was there poor playing, no credit to fight. Oh, of course not. We never get any credit, Mary. And that's okay. You know what? I am perfectly fine. I am perfectly fine with the rest of the world continuing to downplay us and underestimate us. That's fine. As I said, going into the season, sometimes when you have no expectations, it's pleasant surprise. Well, it's been a pleasant surprise so far. You were hoping to get a split with San Francisco and Houston and to be 2-1 and then maybe hopefully get a split between Green Bay and the Jets. No, I'm greedy now. I'm greedy. I absolutely want, at worst, this team to be 4-1 going into the bye week, at worst. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Yes, that wasn't illegal. We'll talk about that, T-Best. But yes, that third down conversion on that final drive to Naylor was absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. All right, let's get started here. So first off, the defense. Because that right now, until we completely click on offense, is the side of the ball that's carrying us. You gave up 6 points last week. 3 of them were off of a Vikings turnover. Thank you, CJ Ham. Hey, CJ, you made up for it with that block punt. So we'll let you go on that. But the Vikings gave up 17 points to the NFC champs, regarded as one of the top 3 teams in the NFL. And both of their touchdown drives came off turnovers. Now, the 99-yard drive, yes, it goes into the category, but ostensibly it really doesn't. It's not like, oh, you turn the ball over on your 15-yard line and then they scored by only going 15 yards. No, they went 99 yards, so they legitimately earned that one. But the Vikings gave up a lot of yards yesterday. Brock Purdy, 319 yards passing. But his quarterback QBR, 46.1. Why? Because he got sacked 6 times and was under pressure all day long. I saw the stat earlier regarding how much blitzing they did. I believe, they blitzed Brock Purdy on 22 of his 44 dropbacks. That's a decent chunk of change, not quite 50%. Last year, we were at 65%. So what does that mean? It means we're getting pressure with our front 4. And we're only blitzing to mix it up. We're not blitzing out of necessity. I'll say again, defensively, Jihad Ward, Blake Cashman, Ivan Pace, Pat Jones, Andrew Van Ginkel almost had 2 more picks yesterday. One of them at the end, it wouldn't have been a pick 6. It was down at the Vikings 10-yard line. He would have got caught eventually. But Harrison Phillips, and even though he blundered on the special teams, Dallas Turner got a little bit into the mix. Again, how many guys did I just name there? Back in the Zim Reaper days, it was Everson Griffin, it was Daniil Hunter, Harrison Smith, a little bit here of Linville Joseph, and then the guys in the secondary, Harrison Smith and Xavier Rhodes. Depth, all kinds of roster depth, which we have not had for 6 years. And that, as I have said in the offseason and through the first couple of weeks, that is what is going to allow Brian Florez to do what he really wants to do. Last year, he did what he could do with the pieces that he had. This year, he's doing what he wants to do. Exotic looks. We're getting pressure from all angles. I don't remember the last time the Vikings ran a safety or a corner blitz. Why? Because they don't have to. They can put the guys on the islands, on the receivers, and be okay with it. Do you remember a whole lot of times the announcers calling a given quarterback's name? I don't remember. Gilmore. He's been picked on all day. Nobody was picked on all day yesterday. For example, another example, Shaq Griffin. You didn't hear his name? Yeah, I'm not saying the 49ers didn't complete any passes and didn't get any yards. I mean, if Brock Purdy's throwing for 319 yards, of course they are, but it's not like they were getting abused out there. Yeah, Deebo Samuel, 110 yards, but it didn't seem that way. Yeah, that nice fourth down conversion would have been a great stop, but ultimately ended up getting a stop on him anyway. But yeah, George Kittle got his, and that's what I said. George Kittle's going to get his. Somebody was going to. We weren't going to shut out this team, but defensively, they are running around all over the place. All over the place. They're just everywhere. There's no weaknesses on this team. Yeah, as I said in the offseason, they're going to give up yards, and they gave up a lot of yards yesterday. They gave up 102 on the ground. That's a lot. Jordan Mason, like I said, but again, 78 in the first half, 22 in the second half. So yeah, you gave up over 400 yards of offense. But I said, I don't care about where they rank defensively with how many yards they give up. I care defensively about how many points they give up. Yeah, go ahead and have all these yards. How many fourth down stops we get? The 49ers, I believe, on third and fourth down were 3 of 14. Yeah, I'll take that. Putting aside the block punt, putting aside the fact that the Vikings actually got some turnovers, and Josh Metellus, how many times have we seen a safety or a cornerback knock the ball up and then it just fall incomplete? Not yesterday. Not yesterday. I'm telling you right now, this defense isn't just good. It's great. It's absolutely great. And I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm not in the business of standing in the way of Brian Florez getting a head coaching opportunity at some point. But for as long as the NFL wants to say, oh, no, we're going to take a pass on Brian Flores, okay, we're here for it. We are absolutely here for it. Unbelievable. Looking at where the Vikings rank defensively. Again, only 2 weeks, and yes, there's another game here, but okay. Patrick Jones, second in the NFL with 4 sacks. All right. Is that likely to continue? Maybe. Not saying definitely not. But what I am going to say is I didn't see this coming. I honestly didn't. I thought they'd be still pretty good. I thought they'd have one more notch in them. They're already 3 notches better than they were last year, and they're already about 7 notches higher than what they were under Ed Donahoe. I'm almost at a loss for words because, as I said, they are not just one-dimensional. Oh, they're really good at stopping the run, but they're not good at stopping the pass. Oh, they're really good at stopping the pass, but you can run all over them. No, they're good everywhere. I'm not saying that they are void of weaknesses because they're certainly not, but give up 6 points in week 1, 17 points in week 2. Yeah. If they somehow, some way stuck to an 11.5 point average, which they're not. But honestly, just watching this defense, you don't fear and shake like we did under Ed Donahoe. Oh, what's going to happen next? Oh, they're going to get this play here or there. No, this defense is good. Yeah, again, like I said, gave up yards, but clamped down. 4th down stop on the 1 yard line right before the Jefferson long touchdown. Couple of turnovers. Yeah, this team's defense is really, really good. It's really, really good. Definitely top 10. I'm going to hold back before I say top 5, but I can see it. I can see a path for them to be a top 5 defense as long as they stay healthy. I mean, that you can say that about any team. That's football 101. You avoid the injury bug, but I'm just at a loss for words. And I felt bad for the defense at halftime. We were up 13-7, should have been up 20-7, should have been up 24-7. And you could realistically say, if not for the turnover, they might not have gotten the 7 points that they got. Okay. Either way, this defense dominated the game. And most importantly, as I said at the start, they met the match of the 49ers physicality. I remember a couple of years ago when they came into TCO for joint practices, and the Vikings were kind of like, oh, geez, going a little rough here for a joint practice here in training camp. They didn't match the 49ers physically. They didn't match the 49ers physically in 2019 in the divisional round of the playoffs. Last year they did and squeaked away with a victory. This year they did, and they utterly dominated. Finally, the Vikings are a physical team defensively. Haven't had that for a while. And boy, oh boy, don't it feel good to know that, yeah, we're going to give up some yards, but we're going to make plays and we're going to hold you. CJ Ham, thank you for making up for your blunder last week. Block punt right away. And then Theo Jackson takes it down. I was a little disappointed in the offense that we only came away with 3, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next segment when we talk about the offense. But I just cannot throw enough flowers at Brian Florez. And I'll talk about why he's doing that when I talk about the flowers we're going to throw at Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa in the final segment. But for right now, enjoy this, because this defense is young. This defense is made up of a lot of very, very good players. And Brian Florez is a defensive coordinator that knows how to use them. All right, time for some comments. What do you guys got here for me? Was that only his second career fumble? I did not see the stat on that, but I know he doesn't fumble a lot. Yeah, he felt a little bad for it, but it's all right. We shot ourselves in the foot 2 or 3 times and still came out away with a victory. Yes, need to clean that up. And that's one thing offensively, and we'll talk about that more in the next segment, that we really need to work on offensively. We can't keep turning the ball over. But as you said, Mary, this is an absolute team. All right, T-Bass, what you got? Sad to say, but the weakling right now looks like Pace, but it isn't uncommon for a second-year player. No, that's a very good point, T-Bass. That's a very, very good point. Yeah, Ivan Pace, he was solid in week 1. Yesterday, not so much. Whiffed on a couple tackles, but again, when you got Cashman out there alongside of it, that's the thing. Last year, who else did we have at linebacker besides Ivan Pace? And that's a little bit of the reason why he stuck out. This year, you got Cashman, you got Andrew Van Ginkel, you got Patrick Jones. You got all kinds of guys. Again, roster depth. Roster depth. In fact, let me pull up that stat here right now. Saw this one here too. Total cap hits for the free agents the Vikings signed, $25.1 million. Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, Aaron Jones, and Sam Darnold. Those are their cap hits, $25 million. Cap hit for a certain quarterback down in Atlanta who's going to play the Philadelphia Eagles tonight, $25 million. Okay. One player coming off an Achilles who you knew what his ceiling was and you knew what the team ceiling was versus those 6 players. So shout out right off the bat to Kwesi and to a certain extent O'Connell and Florez as well. It's not like he didn't get their input to sign those guys, but absolutely. But as far as Ivan Pace goes, I'm not too worried about that. Again, he doesn't have green dot responsibility anymore. Now Cashman has that. So there's going to be times, and like you said, ups and downs for the fact that he is a second-year player. But once again, he's just one guy as part of this overall team defense. So I'm not too worried about it. Shout out to Eric. What's going on, Eric? Good to see you. Thank you so kindly for joining us. Say hello to Florian Underquell for me. Appreciate you. Another great win. Absolutely. Big point time in the game. San Francisco going for it on 4th and goal, basically on the I don't know why that thing muted me all of a sudden. Maybe Shanahan just thought, you know what? I'm not going to get too many more opportunities. And maybe I need to get more than 3 points, and I need to try to steer some momentum and have a bigger play there. I can see it both ways. But at the end of the day, it was a huge momentum for the Vikings. So we will absolutely take it. Pace could be, you don't know, didn't show last season, missing a lot of tackles. Yeah, that's the thing. He is missing more tackles right now, but it's only 2 weeks in. And I like this point, T-Bass. Thank you. When you don't hear cornerbacks' names, that's an absolute good thing. Absolutely. Defense. Maybe. I'm assuming you're referring to Florez. Let me know if you weren't referring to Florez, T-Bass, but again, I'm not ever going to stand in the way of somebody taking a promotion, getting a head coaching job again. But for as long as the NFL wants to be dumb about not hiring Brian Florez, we'll reap the benefits of that. SKOL to all the Purple fans. There you go. Shout out SKOL Mafia. What's going on? Good to see you. We got Eric again. Oh, he just did a SKOL. All right, thanks. Those guys play hard and fast, passionate football. Yes. There are no guests on this team. There are no guests on this defense. Shout out Anthony. What's going on? Hardest game of the year in the books. Maybe. I still think Detroit's going to be difficult, particularly in Detroit. But yes, when you looked at the schedule, obviously when you have 3 games against the 2 teams that were in the NFC Championship game and 2 more against teams that were in the divisional round of the playoff and the Packers, and yet another one that was a playoff team that was the Rams. But yeah, they absolutely were the hardest team on the schedule, and we got them out of the way. So it's going to be it's going to be something. I figured somewhere between 7 and 10 wins. I'm already moving that up to 9 to 11. Not just because they won one game that I had anticipated that they lost, but how they've won it and how they've looked. How many times throughout the history of the Vikings have we always said, hey, yeah, they won that game, but they didn't win it as well as they should have. So, all right, a few more comments here. Okay, thank you guys. If there is one major weakness, it needs to be justified away. Where? Consistency at quarterback. And again, I say that only because I'm looking for something. You're going to give up yards defensively. I've said that all along. They're going to give up yards, but can they keep them off the scoreboard, which they have so far? Sam Darnold, and again, we're going to talk about him in the next segment. There are some things where it's just like, okay, we got to clean that up. And offensively, the turnovers. We got away with it against the Giants because they're bad, and we were so good yesterday against the 49ers that they didn't end up hurting us, but we can't keep up this pace. We got to stop. And again, well, I'll talk about that here in just a second. Lions are the Lions again. Campbell's goofy. Yeah. I picked Tampa Bay to win that game, but seriously, Dan Campbell outsmarted himself one more time. Shout out Ryan. What's going on? This is the most physical team. Yeah, I said that a couple times. So if you just came in, Ryan, I said that a few times, that physically they're fast defensively and they are physical. Could use a little bit more physicality from the offensive line, but bottom line, they're a very physical and a very fast team defensively. All right, let's switch on over to the offense here. You did not have Jordan Addison yesterday. So we figured, all right, we still got Jefferson. Jalen Naylor's going to have to step up, have to rely on the run game a little bit more. Aaron Jones, 9 carries, 32 yards. Key fumble. Ty Chandler, 10 for 82. He picked up his boy Aaron Jones yesterday. And overall, the running game was solid. You had 24 rushing attempts, 26 passing attempts. You had a couple of extra dropbacks. So some of those rushing attempts were from Sam Darnold. So those were originally called pass plays. So ostensibly, you're really looking at 31 pass plays and 19 rushes. But still a pretty good balance of run and pass. And what I said going into the weekend was you have to stick with the running game. Yes, last week against the Giants, it was easy to stick to the run game because you were up by so many points and the Giants are bad. I said you must ball control. And by the way, the Vikings did not do a good job in the first half, despite the fact that they were leading 13-7, despite the fact that the defense really was outstanding. They lost time of possession 2-1. It was 20 minutes and some odd seconds to 9 minutes and some odd seconds. I believe it's 20 minutes to 10. We'll just call it. The Vikings, I thought going into the half, needed to be up by far more than what they were because eventually the defense was going to get worn down. Well, they didn't. But offensively, Sam Darnold is doing what he needs to do. He's driving the car. He's not trying to do too much. But that pass in the end zone to Justin Jefferson was in the air 55 yards. Sorry, a 36-year-old quarterback coming off a bad Achilles isn't making that throw. And more importantly than that, and this isn't to be slander towards our former guy, but it has to be talked about because it's a talker. I don't think Kirk Cousins throws that ball. I think Kirk Cousins standing in the end zone for more than a second and a half would have got rid of the ball earlier because he would have been too afraid to take a sack or a fumble or something like that. He doesn't have the patience. Yes, if that's at the 25-yard line, sure, he has the patience to do that if his protection is good. But I think mentally he would have been trying to get rid of that ball and wouldn't have held on to it for as long as he did. Sam Darnold took the snap, play action, took a couple of hop steps like he was a right fielder trying to throw the ball from the middle of the outfield all the way to home plate and just unloaded that pass. And it was perfectly in stride. And when he hit that, I'm like, is he going to? Oh, and then he cuts back and JJ's gone. I'm sorry. Jets is gone. He's not JJ anymore. JJ McCarthy is. But anyway. Offensively, pretty balanced. Got to cut out the turnovers. Again, we would have put up 30-some points. Sam Darnold, for as brilliant as that play was and as brilliant as that final drive is, and we'll get to that final drive in a second. Yeah, the tight end, and I believe, I can't remember if it was Munt or Muse on that motion play that completely threw off that toss to Jones. Next time, don't try and jump pass a pitch back to a running back over a tight end that's in the wrong spot. Just eat the play. Dumb decision there. The interception that he had, yeah, the guy was open, but he needed to arc the ball as opposed to trying to laser it in. Again, great play by the 49ers. All-pro linebacker. Forgive me. I'm drawing it. Fred Warner. Thank you. Fred Warner might be the best linebacker in the NFL. That was a great play. Was it avoidable, though? Yes. So that's something that he and KOC can work on to avoid said mistakes like that again. But sans that turnover and Aaron Jones, yeah, hang on to the ball, dude. Now, that was a great hit. I mean, it's not like he was carrying it out away from his body. He had it close, and it was just a great hit by the 49ers defensive player there. But we could have easily had 40 points on the board. So don't, like I said, let the 23 points that were on the board confuse you. But Justin Jefferson takes a little bit of has a thigh contusion, was out the rest of the game. And I will say this. Sam Darnold showed you that for one drive, as I said in the opening salvo, for one drive, he showed you he could put the team on his back. Now, I'm not saying he could do that for an entire game or for an entire season or in the playoffs, but whatever. We'll get to that later. But that drive, he had his offensive line, and he had guys that were playing in preseason games in the second and third quarter. No disrespect to Jalen Nailor. He did a great job yesterday. Great job by Jalen Nailor on that Justin Jefferson touchdown drive by sprinting and staying with it and getting that final block. Now, would JJ have still made it to the end zone without that block? Maybe, maybe not. But at the end of the day, he made it a lot easier for him after Justin Jefferson. I believe they say he tracked and that he ran a total of 115, 120 yards on that touchdown play. But with all that being said, Jalen Nailor absolutely stepped up, and he stepped up huge on that final drive. But that final drive is all credited to me, to Sam Darnold. A couple of key third down conversions, one to Brandon Powell, the aforementioned Jalen Nailor, and getting the ball down to the 5-yard line. Now, thank you for the false start that ultimately said, all right, well, we're not going to try for the end zone here now. We're just going to try to milk some clock. Ty Chandler, the only nitpick I'm going to have on your game yesterday, Ty Chandler, when you saw that the pass wasn't there, stay in bounds, but that's nitpicky. But anyway, that final drive by Sam Darnold. I'm not going to say that Kirk wouldn't have done that because Kirk had how many fourth quarter comebacks 2 years ago? And yes, that drive in Buffalo where he hit Jefferson on that 18-yarder, the play that everybody's seen 1,000 times. Okay, I'm not going to say that Kirk Cousins was not capable of something like that. But what I am going to say is I believe they got the ball back with just under 10 minutes left. And they milked that clock. They absolutely milked that clock. First downs, key third down conversions. That's a championship level drive. Now, it's one game. And yeah, you know what? It was still against the 49ers. So I don't want to hear now. People making excuses now about, well, the 49ers, they were coming off of a short week because they played on Monday Night Football. And, you know, they've been playing for forever and because they've gone to the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl a bunch of times in the last 5 years. I don't care. I do not care. All right, to correct myself earlier, they got that ball with 10 minutes and 16 seconds left on the clock, and San Francisco got the ball back with 3:30. So they took almost 7 minutes of time off that clock. Even though it just ended up in a field goal, it was all that they needed to go up 9 and ice that game because they did bleed the clock and they did bleed San Francisco of their timeout. San Francisco had no timeouts when they got the ball back. So even if they had scored a touchdown, it was all dependent on them, getting the onside kick, which we all know has a very, very low percentage. But circling back, offensively, I think JJ's going to be fine. You know, a thigh contusion can hurt, but he can get treatment on that. It's not like it was a hamstring or an ankle or something like that that's going to keep him out a game or two. He absolutely, he's going to be fine. I think part of the reason he might have kept himself out is, I don't know, somebody was commenting that, you know, he might have felt a little something like it was his hamstring again and he was a little nervous about it, but he'll be fine. Kevin O'Connell said as much in his postgame, in his presser today. So JJ is going to be fine. No idea how long Jordan Addison is going to be out for. But for 1 week, Sam Darnold put this team on his back and had a final drive without Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. Oh, yeah. And I think for maybe one play, Aaron Jones. He did it with backups against the San Francisco 49ers defense. Now, maybe they're not the same defense that they have been the last couple of years, but they're still a pretty doggone good defense. So we're not going to downsize the accomplishment of that great drive. Again, it was one drive, but it was a winning drive. It's fourth quarter, it's crunch time, and Sam Darnold got it done. That pass to Nailor down to the 20-yard line. Back shoulder fade. They bracketed coverage on him. He had good protection, and at the end of it, he put it where either Nailor was going to get it or nobody was going to get it. So we say, oh, well, why didn't he lead him more? Because he would have led him into the safety. It was a perfect spot to throw that pass. You get another first down, you get to run 3 more plays, take up more time off the clock. Ultimately, got down to the 5-yard line, and then we had that false start, which kind of killed the opportunity to get in the end zone. But Sam Darnold, take a bow. People say, "Wow, Sam Darnold, 3rd overall draft pick, he's been a bust." I'm going to say this right now. For anybody who said that Sam Darnold was equally the bust that who's the quarterback in Bryce Young in Carolina, who just got benched today for Andy Dalton. Yeah, no. Sam Bradford is not in the same category as Bryce Young. He's finally in an opportunity and on a team that knows how to utilize his talents and has a head coach that knows what he's good at and what he's good for and to scheme up the plays for him. Again, yes, that bomb to Justin Jefferson. Guess what? Not every quarterback makes that throw. Not every quarterback waits for it and has the confidence in his offensive line to be able to let that play develop for as long as it did. I mean, he caught the ball 50 yards downfield. Of course, it took a little time for him to get down there. And Sam Darnold trusted his offensive line. Didn't always do that. He didn't always do that. But having said that, how far can this team go offensively? As I've said, we got to cut down on the turnovers offensively. And they're coming from all sides. A couple of dumb plays. Sam Darnold, as brilliant as he was on that last drive, he's good for about 1 or 2 bonehead plays a game. And we got to cut that down to like 0 to 1. Okay. We got to cut down the bonehead plays from our quarterback. But again, the interception that he had yesterday was a great play by the defender. It was a great play by Warner. That can be corrected. Aaron Jones, I don't see him fumbling again like that. He rarely has fumbled. As Mary pointed out earlier, I think it was only his 2nd fumble of his career. So I'm not too worried about that. I am a little worried about the effectiveness that Aaron Jones had on the ground. As I said, we only had 32 yards rushing, but Ty Chandler picked him up. And Ty Chandler has a burst. He's got more of a burst than Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones still a better running back right now because he has the ability to, has a better vision, where Ty Chandler is plant your foot in the ground, make one cut and go. But again, 82 yards on only 10 carries. 10 carries for him, 9 carries for Jones. That's what you're going to have to do because you can't make Aaron Jones your bell cow because he's had too many injuries. You can't make him your bell cow. But yesterday, it was kind of one of those deals where Aaron Jones softened him up and Ty Chandler kind of finished him off. And again, that is also what then allowed Sam Darnold to be what he was. Offensive line, okay, yeah, Sam Darnold got sacked 3 times. One of them was on Sam Darnold. He's running sideways and he did a good job of navigating the pocket when there was pressure. He did get caught a couple times, but the last sack that he had, I put all on him, where he sidestepped, stepped up, and then starts running towards the sideline where there is an alley that you could have driven a pickup truck through. Just run forward. Even if you don't make the first down, he ran sideways and Bowles eventually caught him. But sans that, I thought the offensive line did a very, very good job. There's another stat that I saw earlier today. I'm going to pull that one up here now. Regarding Blake Brandel. Blake Brandel through 2 weeks, 0 pressures, 0 sacks, 8th highest PFF grade among guards in 109 snaps played. I think we found our answer at left guard. Yeah, last week against the Giants. Okay. There were some moments because you're talking about Dexter Lawrence and Thibodeau, but 0 pressures allowed. 0. Keep this up and we can make some noise. I didn't think that I thought the idea of winning this division was a long shot. It's not anymore. Detroit isn't. I'm not saying Detroit is falling off. They're still a very, very good team, but they're not as far ahead of us as they were last year. So to wrap it up offensively, again, shout out Jalen Naylor. Of all of the players that I'm going to give a shout to offensively, yes, I know it's easy to say Justin Jefferson. We talk about 4 catches and 133 yards. Oh, well, 97 of them came on 1 play. Okay, great. He's still Justin Jefferson. But after the Metellus interception and Jalen Naylor 1 play into the end zone, I was like, all right, we got this. So hopefully Justin Jefferson doesn't have anything lingering on the injuries, and hopefully we can get Jordan Addison back. Because again, let's imagine this team and how they might have been yesterday had Jordan Addison played. Maybe we do end up putting up 40 points. Should have put up 40 points without him. All I can say right now is this team is balanced. It's not like 98 where we had an explosive and incredible offense and had a mediocre defense. 2009 offense was definitely better. They comprised about 70% of that team and 30% of it to the defense. This team is ultra balanced. And if you can just cut off the turnovers, offensively. Your defense will give up yards, but right now they're not giving up any points. So I almost don't want to get too excited. Maybe that's the curmudgeon, fatalist Vikings fan in me that is always scared that the other shoe is going to drop. But for right now, this team is very, very good. This defense is great. If we get a victory against the Texans, all bets are off. All bets are off at that point. Let's get to some comments because I got to shout some people out that just entered the chat here. So thank you kindly for joining me here as well. Gary, good to see you. Thank you kindly for joining. I appreciate you. Good to see you, Gary. It's good to be back. It's absolutely good to be back. Just I was worried at the beginning about the North, but honestly, I have no fear now. No, I don't either. I don't fear the Bears. The Bears are terrible. Again, we're going to do the NFC North roundup here, and that's going to be a quick segment. And then I'm going to send you guys over to Vikings First and SKOL for the Real 4-0 show because I know Tyler and Dave are going to be off the charts here with this. But we'll get to your comments and get to that wrap up here. Not to slander Kirk, but no chance in heck. No, probably not. No, probably not. Shout out Sarah. What's going on, Sarah? Winers fans are so arrogant they called our winning against us ours. They did not say that, Sarah. You're making that up. That was our Super Bowl. We still have 2 games against the Packers and 2 games against the Lions. If anything's going to be our Super Bowl, it's going to be that. You're not serious. Did they really say that? I say, why would beating them be our Super Bowl? They ain't the Chiefs. Yes, thank you very much. SKOL for Life, Barber. What's going on? Thanks so kindly for joining me. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. And I think I saw one more. Oh, you guys got a lot of back and forth going on here, so I'll just skew those for now. I thought I saw one more. You guys know I like to shout you guys out. Okay, you guys are going back and forth. All right. Still have the banner for this one, so I got to throw it up. If I can find it, what do I do with it? I know, riveting podcasting and riveting stuff there. All right, NFC North roundup. There's our button. The Green Bay Packers squeaked out 16-10 over the lowly. Oh, this thing freezes on me right now. That's always great. Thanks a lot. Take 2. NFC North roundup. We'll start with the Green Bay Packers, who squeaked out a 16-10 victory over the Colts. Anthony Richardson, I would have thought you guys would have been able to run through the Packers a little bit more than you guys did. And they did not ask their quarterback to do much. Hardly anything at all. Malik Willis, 12 out of 14. Okay. In the first half? No, for the game. 12 out of 14 for 122 yards. They didn't ask him to do much. The Green Bay Packers just said, you know what? We're going to make this a rushing game. They only threw the ball 14 times, ran the ball 53. Josh Jacobs, 32 for 151. Okay, good for you guys. But you still barely beat the Indianapolis Colts. And I really had hoped that the Colts had something for them. But congratulations, you got a victory at home. You did what you needed to do. Your defense was okay. You know, Jonathan Taylor still went over 100 yards. This Packers team, especially without Jordan Love, but they're thoroughly mediocre. And I don't think Jordan Love's going to be back in time to play us. There's part of me that hopes he does because I want to face them at full strength. I don't want there to be any excuses. Oh, we didn't have our quarterback. Yeah, we didn't have our quarterback in the second game last year. You guys didn't give us a break for that. So at the end of the day, for me, the Packers are thoroughly mediocre at best. The Houston Texans, who will face next week, dispatch of the Chicago Bears, 19-13. Kind of a interesting output performance from the Texans. I thought that they would end up putting up a few more points. Maybe I am underrating this Bears defense, but what I'm not underrating is Caleb Williams. Congratulations. You finally passed for over 100 yards, 174 yards for Caleb Williams, got sacked 7 times. I'm not ready to call him a bust, but what I am going to say is the idea that Caleb Williams was going to just turn this Bears offense around overnight has been greatly exaggerated. Yeah, the Bears defense kept him in the game. CJ Stroud only had 260 passing yards and they only had 75 rushing yards. So we're going to have to put a couple of guys on that Nico Collins guy. He had 135 yards and a touchdown on 8 catches. So if we can contain one CJ Stroud, I think we can win that game. And I never thought I would go into it saying that we have an opportunity to beat both San Francisco and Houston. We were just hoping for a split at that point. But the headliner, the Detroit Lions, lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 20-16. Dan Campbell, for all the credit he gets for being the riverboat gambler, once again outthought himself. He had an opportunity to get points on the board at the end of the half, decided not to take it. Clock runs out. Jared Goff, 307 yards, but picked off twice. Baker Mayfield was pretty pedestrian, only 185 yards and a touch, but Tampa Bay did just enough. And outside of Amon St. Brown for 119 yards, they didn't do a whole lot offensively. The Lions didn't. So at the end of the day, this division is up for grabs. We are kings of the North for 1 week. We are on top of the division for 1 week. How long that's going to last, who knows? But we're all going to enjoy the ride because, again, this division is absolutely up for grabs. I didn't think that the Vikings would be higher than third. I thought even if everything went right, they would have a shot at a wild card. But no, this division right now, as long as this defense stays healthy and Sam Darnold doesn't turn the ball over too much, no, we are absolutely in play for this division and to make the playoffs and actually in a position to do something besides get to the playoffs and lose in the first round or get thoroughly dismissed in the division round of the playoffs. But that's further on down the road. So I'm going to get to comments. I'm going to get one last shout out to Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell as my final segment here. But before I do that, I want to check you guys' comments out. Have they said what happened? Again, thigh contusion. He got hit on the thigh. I think it was some crossfire. Wasn't dirty, wasn't intentional, just a couple of guys running into each other. And he said it was relatively painful. So they kept him out for the rest of the game. And I don't know if had been a different situation, if he would have been able to come back in. Like if that was the playoffs and he's like, okay, I'm not going to sit out the final drive, but maybe Kevin O'Connell said, you know what, I have enough faith in Sam Darnold and how well we've played that, you know what, I'm not going to risk him. Maybe if it was later in the season or something like that. But either way, that's what's going on with him. I don't think he misses any time. Again, I will say, I really want to know. I know Jordan Addison's day to day, week to week, whatever. But at the end of it, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. I know I saw a couple more comments from me. Oh, yes. How about that ref on that JJ play? Running just as fast as the 49ers guy. Now, again, the 49ers guys got twisted around because Justin saw he wasn't going to beat him to this corner in the direction he was going. So he stopped on a dime and switched spots and switched directions and was able to accelerate faster than those guys did. But yes, that referee said, I'm going to get to the end zone right there with JJ. I'm going to get right there. Shout out Anthony. I'll admit I had my doubts, but I'm a believer now. Yeah. And you know what? Sam Darnold earned the right to be doubted with how he had played. Again, some of the things that were said about him were correct. He always started off hot, but he didn't have a whole lot around him. Well, now he started off hot and he still got stuff around him. So we'll see. I'm not ready to put him as a top 10 quarterback, much less top 5, but I'll take for what we got. And what we got and what we need him to do is enough for what else we have around him, both on the offensive side and the defense. Yeah, I forgot about it. He didn't have Hawkinson either. Good point, Ryan. Thank you. Appreciate it. 2-0. You got that. Bears got no offense, but they're better than us. Yeah, you're right, Sarah. That's fine. People always want to downplay us. They always want to say, oh, the Bears are this and monsters in the midway. Whatever. That's fine. I'm not overly concerned about it. Partially because every time the Vikings start putting expectations on themselves, or we as fans put expectations on the Vikings, is when they start to let us down. But Ryan says, if we get by the Texans, it's not crazy. No, it's not. If they get past the Texans, they absolutely should beat Green Bay. And they probably should beat the Jets, depending on which Jets team show. Jets still are good defensively, so they could give Sam Darnold some trouble. But their offense is just okay. Rodgers is just okay. I don't think he is MVP Rodgers, obviously. I don't think he's totally washed. I would take him over Cousins right now if I had to take one of those two. But no, if we can get past you, even if we lose to Houston 4-1 at the bye week, nobody would have predicted 4-1 in the bye week. Not even Paul Allen. Not even the biggest homers in the world would have predicted that. The guy that hit Jordan Addison on the Giants is fine. Yes. That was, he got fined for it. So clearly it's against the rules, but we are going to be Kings. And I certainly hope so, Anthony. We're looking good right now. We're absolutely looking good right now. And I said that earlier before you got in, Barbara, but I'll say it again here. Yes. Jalen Naylor, he absolutely filled in admirably for Jordan Addison, and he filled in admirably for Justin Jefferson on the final drive. But yes, both of those guys were wide open. If he had thrown the ball to Naylor, it would have been a 50-yard gain and possibly even more. But yes, he got on his horse and said, hey, I'm going to get in the way of that last defender and help JJ get in the end zone. Sarah says, I'm not scared of the Texans. No, I'm not either. It's going to be a challenge, though. CJ Stroud is – I'm not saying that he's better than Brock Purdy, but if I had to choose one, I'd rather have CJ Stroud. I think Brock Purdy obviously is more accomplished because he's done it for a couple of years. But what I said going into the game last week was if you get Brock Purdy off of his spot and you limit his run game, he'll throw you up a couple of balls. And he did. And we took advantage of that. Got a couple of interceptions. Well, one goes down as an interception. It was really a fumble that never hit the ground. But in either case, He'll give you 2 or 3 a game where you can take advantage of that. So, all right. Final segment of the night. Shout out to Kevin O'Connell and shout out to Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. I mentioned this stat earlier. I'm going to mention it again. Looking at what the Vikings did in free agency and the cap hits this season, one more time. Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, Aaron Jones, Sam Darnold, and Shaq Griffith total up to cap hits of $25.1 million. Kirk Cousins cap hit this year, $25 million. I think Kevin O'Connell still wanted to have Kirk Cousins back, but Kwesi had the final say. He said it was, hey, it's time to move into a different direction. Time to roster construct this roster in a way that is balanced and not be reliant on a $40 to $45 million quarterback who has a glass ceiling in the division round of the playoffs. And for 2 weeks, it's looking good. I thought it was the right decision a couple of years ago. So I definitely think it was the right decision this offseason. I certainly do now. But Sam Darnold at $10 million, even if Kirk Cousins was healthy, let's say Kirk Cousins hadn't injured his Achilles, I still would rather have Sam Darnold at $10 million versus Kirk Cousins at 45 because of the other things that you can do. Somebody say, well, why didn't we sign Kirk? We could have signed Kirk for 1 more year. First off, Kirk was not going to take a 1-year deal. And even if he would have taken a 1-year deal, he would have had a cap hit of 45, which means you wouldn't have had the money to spend on all these other players. We've gone through the list. This is why this defense looks so good right now. It's because you have roster depth. Sometimes you do push all your chips in for a quarterback like that or 1-star player. This wasn't the time to do it. The time to do it was 2018, and they probably held on to it for too long. But bottom line, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, for all the crap we give him, and he deserves a lot of it for parts of that 2022 draft. His first one out the gate, not so good. By the way, that 2022 draft did yield us Ty Chandler, Speedy Jalen Naylor, and oh, by the way, I'm going to have to give some props to that right guard, Ed Ingram, too. That was part of that 2022 class as well. 2023, 2024, getting better and better. All I'm saying is this. For anybody that wanted Kwesi Adofo-Mensah fired, he had the guts to go to the Wilfs and Kevin O'Connell and say, it's time to move off Kirk. It's time to diversify that money on the salary cap and bring in a bunch of players so that we can actually have a well-rounded team as opposed to a solid team with a solid quarterback that's going to get us so far, but no farther than that. So all I'm going to say is for right now, as we wrap this up here tonight, get ready for the Monday Night Football game. As much as I don't like cheering for the Eagles, and again, I'm not cheering for Kirk to lose because I want Kirk to be available and playing us when they come to town in November. I don't want him to have been benched already, and then it's not that I'm afraid of Michael Penix Jr. I'm just saying I want the opportunity to play Kirk. So it's not like I'm hoping for him to fail. That's not what I'm doing. But for the 3rd year in a row, old Kirky boys going to Philadelphia on primetime in week 2. Primetime and Kirk. Good luck. Good luck, Atlanta. Having said all that, if you didn't do so on your way in, hit the like button. If you don't already subscribe, hit the subscribe button for me if you could do that as well. And if you don't already do so, please go and subscribe to the Vikings First and SKOL podcast feed on your favorite podcast aggregator. And I'm putting a link into the Real Forno show here to wrap this up here tonight. So go on over to Vikings First and SKOL, and we will see you over there with Tyler and Dave. And I'm just looking forward to hearing their thoughts as well. Thank you kindly, as always, for joining me. I will be back, not live, but I'll have an episode drop this Thursday or Friday with my preview for the Houston Texans. And for right now, the Minnesota Vikings are the kings in the North after 2 weeks. I didn't think I'd say that at any point at all this season. Thanks again for joining me, you guys. Good night. SKOL Vikes. Take care.